Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are going to get started. I just wanted to first start with a little bit of a housekeeping item. This meeting is in meeting mode so that it can be more interactive in a way that can ask questions, and our moderator this evening, Dr. Harley, will be able to answer back to you. We will ask that you please keep your microphones muted. Feel free to keep your camera on, but your microphone's muted during the presentation, and utilize the chat box as much as you would like. I will be moderating the chat to relay questions, but when you're asking a question and Dr. Harley is answering, she will jump on and you can feel free to have some conversation. But I want to first welcome everyone this evening. And I would want to begin with starting with a little brief history of ABWL. So ABWL New Jersey is New Jersey's first women's bar association. It was organized in 1975 by a group of Black women lawyers. Over the past 45 years, ABWL has been on the forefront of addressing important legal issues. During this pandemic, we believe it is even more important to continue educating the community about legal issues impacting our lives, including bringing you this webinar to ensure that every vote counts. So we will first up have some brief remarks by our president of ABWL, Ms. Marcetta Lee.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you so much, Nilaja, our fearless presenter extraordinaire. I don't even have to call her name. You know, she's even better than Oprah. She doesn't even need a first name. We know who that is. And all of the other, and Sherry Wilson and her committee, along with the other presidents of the other organizations, Garden State Bar, Dean, I think is on. I'm just jumping on because I had 2 Zooms going on in my house and my network hated me, so I had to sign off the Divine 9-1. It is truly a pleasure to see so many sponsors tonight. I see the links and so many others that will be acknowledged. And I am just privileged to be the president for this year of Association of Black Women Lawyers. This voting initiative that was started, I guess, early back in July and August was Sherry's vision, and everybody else jumped on. We jumped on the bandwagon with her. And in my head, I thought we were going to be doing a lot of educating other folks about voting ballots, those deficiencies that create problems. But frankly, I have learned so much about voting in the process myself, and also just a great deal more information about disparity in voting in New Jersey, and so many ways that through Dr. Harley, how our vote is suppressed. And anything that folks trying to suppress that much must be pretty important. And I know that, and I've been sharing it everywhere, and I know you have, and I think it's more important than ever for us to come together. And even after this election, there are laws that need to be changed. And if attorneys cannot help change laws for justice and fairness, then I don't quite know why we got our license to practice law. So I just hope that this passion keeps on, because, you know, anything that this important, folks, after the election, folks are going to double down and keep on with means to suppress. And frankly, people should be bending over backward and flipping 3 jumps to make sure that people who want to vote, vote. But it's the opposite. And we need to do something about that. And I'm just so glad so many folks have joined us in these various webinars. And I hope that we can continue to partner with all of you to make sure that local, state, and federal elections are fair. Be blessed, be safe, and God bless. And thank you for giving me these few minutes to speak.
Thank you so much, President Lee, for joining us. I just want to acknowledge our sponsors right now. We currently have 6 sponsors, which has been pretty much the maximum since we've been doing these webinars, which is very exciting. We have the Garden State Bar Association, the League of Women Voters of New Jersey, the New Jersey chapter of the National Black Prosecutors Association, the North Jersey chapter of the Shaw University Alumni Association, the Essex County Links, as well as the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Central New Jersey chapter. So with that, I would like to bring up President of GSBA, Dean Burrell, to make a few brief remarks.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. I'm bouncing between Zoom calls like everyone else. And I appreciate the ABWL, the Garden State Bar, and the ABWL is, as the email I sent you today, Marcetta, we are joined at the hip. We move together because we know in strength you have to do that. I will concede, I enjoyed your comment about the backflips. I don't think I've tried one of those in a few years, but you know, nice to remember those days. I'm going to send out a call, a challenge to every Black attorney, every attorney on this call, male, female, we need you. I see that Jesse's on from the League of Women Voters. She will give you ways to volunteer. I am volunteering through the National Bar Association, the We the People. Go to their website. You are needed for election protection. Charles Hamilton Houston, good alpha man. A lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite. So that's the gauntlet I'm tossing down. And I've decided I'm going to be a social engineer. I've already worked one shift on election protection. I have a shift tomorrow. I have a shift on Sunday. I am working with one of the political, partisan, with the party that wants Black folks to vote. And I'll be at the polls somewhere, be it New Jersey or be it Pennsylvania on Tuesday, because our folks fought too hard and too many of us died for it to go for the okie doke. So I'm going to leave you, but I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And I've heard Dr. Harley speak several times, and you're in for an exciting evening. So thank you so much, and I will see you at the polls.
Thank you so much, Dean. I will now ask Ms. Jessie Burns from the League of Women Voters to give some brief remarks on behalf of her organization. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much to ABWL for inviting us here tonight, and to all the sponsors for putting on this important conversation. And I know that some of you all are league members as well, so I really appreciate the work that you do helping voters within our organization. So for folks that aren't familiar with the League, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan voting rights organization, is what we're primarily known for, but we also do other advocacy issues, from immigration rights to fighting for the environment, women and family issues, public education, a whole slew of things to try to make New Jersey more equitable and have better public policy. I invite anybody to partner with us, get involved in these fights. As was mentioned, we are doing a lot of work around protecting democracy during the pandemic. I don't know what election day is going to look like. I don't think anybody does. But I do want to just kind of lift up after election day for a second. So as we kind of shift gears towards what's next, I'm really discouraged about a lot of the conversations that happened in the state as we try to make democracy better for everybody. For example, you might have seen today that Newark only has 2 drop boxes, and they're located only in the central ward. Things like this. There's really big disparities going on where we've tried in partnership with folks on this call, with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, to get these things corrected prior to election day, and we have not been successful. Another example is the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice really championed a bill to limit police presence at polling locations because of voter intimidation. We participated in a committee hearing this week, and the conversation in that committee hearing was really disheartening to me. It broke down into, basically it was a bunch of really smart advocates, mostly Black advocates, advocates of color who know their stuff, who are voting rights experts, saying this is a reality. And then it was legislators saying, I don't believe your experience. That's not a reality. And I thought New Jersey was better than this, and it's not. So I hope that moving forward, you know, if anybody's interested in partnering around these issues, we can work together, because it's going to take so much power and expertise and just fierceness to move New Jersey forward, because we are way behind where I hoped we would be. And like everything else, I think that COVID is just exposing so many of these things where what, you know, somebody might have thought would have been an easy lift isn't. So I really appreciate the opportunity just to hear and learn with you all tonight. And I hope that we can, you know, partner moving forward to try to make our democracy more inclusive and, you know, not shutting so many folks out after November. Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us this evening. I would now like to welcome President Carolyn Gwen on behalf of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Prosecutors Association. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us, and thank you for allowing us to partner up with you on this event. We are the Black Prosecutors Association of New Jersey. It's a local chapter of our National Black Prosecutors Association. Our mission is the recruitment, retention, and reform of Black prosecutors. However, we do have a social action component, and that's why we're here today. And I'm here to learn how we can partner up with other organizations to better understand and make sure that, as the young lady said right before me, that democracy goes on. I too am a little disheartened. I was out last week with some friends, and we ran into some other friends and found out in one particular town in Bergen County, there's at least 5 people I spoke to that night that had not gotten their ballots already. Now that we are like less than a week before the election and they had not gotten their ballots. There's something wrong. So I immediately called the Bergen County elections and also spoke to a congressman about that. But things do have to change, and we can only change if we all partner up together. The only thing I have to add to everybody on this call, please make sure that every family member that you have, no matter where they are, has a way to get to the polls, whether they are in New Jersey or out of another state. Make sure that they have a way to vote. I've called my family members in Georgia, Arizona. Make sure you get out there. If you don't, let me know, and I'll get somebody to get you out there to make sure that your vote counts. But I encourage everyone, talk to your family and make sure that everybody has their opportunity to exercise the right to vote. As Mr. Burrows said, that too many people lost their lives for this right to vote, and we will do a disservice to them if we do not exercise that right. Again, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to bring to the cyber stage, Mr. Gregory Jenkins, President of Shaw University Alumni Association. Mr. Jenkins, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let me just say thank you to the ABWL New Jersey for your continuous activism and service. And also want to thank you for providing this opportunity for the North Jersey Shaw University Alumni Chapter to be a sponsor. As a Shore alum, we received our training at the oldest HBCU in the South. Shore U was founded in 1865 and has a rich tradition steeped in activism and service. Shore was the first college in North Carolina to offer a 4-year medical school and the first HBCU to open its doors to women. One of our most notable women is Ella Baker, a civil rights activist and co-founder of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which is SNCC. As an alumni chapter, we continue and maintain a tradition of activism and service. Our chapter collaborates with HBCU New Jersey and other community-based organizations to provide community service. We also provide annual scholarship to New Jersey students attending Shore U, and we annually raise money to donate to the university. So I am looking forward to tonight's program. We know that Dr. Harley always brings her A game, and I'm sure that we'll be well informed afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us as well. I would like to now bring Chapter Vice President Monique Pryor, Esquire, on behalf of the Essex County Links.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you. Our president was unable to be here with you today, and so she asked me to bring greetings on her behalf. As mentioned, I am the Vice President of the Essex County Chapter of the Links. I bring you greetings from our illustrious President, Dr. Karma Warren, who could not make this webinar today. She sends her regrets, but she sent me in her stead. I am a fellow attorney, and I'm happy to be in this fight with you, especially with my sister, Dr. Joyce Harley. I grin because I have done seminars and webinars with her before, and I love all the accolades before me that says she brings it. She is going to bring it, and not only is she going to bring it, she's going to give us action items to do, and that's what I've always appreciated about her. She just doesn't deliver the message, but she gives us homework, and we have a path forward to make our community a success. So I appreciate you. And I will continue with President Karma's remarks. Given the extreme importance of the upcoming election and the need for our voices to be heard, I am excited to welcome you to this powerful voter education program that grew from an amazing partnership between the Links and the Association of Black Women Lawyers of New Jersey. We hope that you will be enlightened, energized, and recharged by the great work of our National Trends and Services Facet and Legislative Issues Committee in putting together this most timely and nationally significant session. All of these issues and areas that we are concerned about at stake in this election, and we take it as our responsibility to empower people to make sure that every vote counts. With the onset of the pandemic, voting has become more complicated than ever before. We are blessed to be able to have our own Link sister, Dr. Joyce Harley, Esquire, with you to moderate and present this distinguished legal scholars and practitioners that will empower us to guide our communities and overcome the impediments to voting. So people, get your pens and pads ready or note-taking devices and get ready to be informed and inspired. Thank you, President Dr. Karma Warren.
Thank you so much. That was exciting. I'm excited to, hear the rest of the program. And last but definitely not least, I would like to bring First Vice President Toya Breland on behalf of NC 100 BWC.
Thank you so much. And we are also very happy to be here and to partner with you in tonight's endeavor. I am looking forward to hearing Dr. Harley. After all of that I've heard so far, I mean, this is going to be an exciting event just to hear the passion that I understand she's going to bring to tonight's session. But I do want to acknowledge and thank the president, Ms. Lee, and also Ms. Wilson for inviting us this evening. I want to acknowledge the work that your organization has done and continue to do on behalf of individuals in New Jersey. Our organization, NCBW, is committed to advocacy on behalf of Black women and girls, specifically in the areas of gender equity, in health, education, and economic empowerment. And we want to see our vision of Black women and girls living in a world where socioeconomic inequity no longer exists. We have national and local initiatives that are designed and implemented in response to critical national issues that affect the African American community. And nothing speaks more loudly to these issues than the importance of voting and letting your voice be heard at the ballot box. We understand how critical it is now more than ever for citizens to exercise their rights to vote. We stand on the shoulders of some dynamic giants and champions who paved the way for us to be able to exercise this right. And with the increasing number of new voters in New Jersey and the changing in voting this year as a result of the pandemic, the need for tonight's program and the need for every vote to count is a must. So NCBW has partnered with vote.org and has worked across this country to ensure that everyone understands the need to vote, but also what's different about it, what's new and important about voting in 2020. I'm sure that most of you would agree with me that this year's presidential election is perhaps one of our country's most important elections. We hope that through tonight's event and others like this, that we can make a difference in ensuring New Jersey voters have the right information. Our democracy is counting on us, and they are counting on every vote, and we don't want one New Jersey citizen to miss this opportunity. So again, thank you to the Association of Black Women Lawyers of New Jersey for your commitment to this important issue and having us share in it with you this evening. And we look forward to hearing more from you and look forward to hearing Dr. Harley. Thank you.
And thank you so much. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenter and moderator of this evening's program, Dr. Oh, you know what? Here we go. Okay, Dr. Joyce Harley. So Dr. Joyce Wilson Harley is an attorney specializing in community economic development and public policy matters. She was the first African American elected to the South Orange City Council, where she also served as mayor. Dr. Harley is the founder of Operation Big Vote, which operates around the nation working with Black women's organizations to get Black women elected to public office. She is a proud member of the Essex County chapter of the Lynx, okay Lynx, we're here tonight, the Montclair Drifters, and the Montclair Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, and is a past president of the Association of Black Women's Lawyers of New Jersey. Thank you so much, Dr. Harley, and the floor is yours. I will share the screen with your presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This is our fourth and final presentation on how to vote by mail and making sure that your ballot gets counted. We did this, and I want to thank my current president, Marcetta Lee and Sherry Wilson, for pulling all of this together, because if there was ever a time when we needed to make sure that every single vote counts and gets counted, it was now. It is now. We don't have a minute to waste, a minute to lose. We're 5 days away from having the opportunity and the chance to change the course of history. And I don't use those words lightly, because we've been at this since July, as President Marcetta Lee said, reaching out to people, making sure that everyone knows how important it is that they vote, and giving them the tools and information necessary to make sure that their votes count. And it was quite dismaying as we were in the process of doing this, and I started this months ago, encouraging people to register to vote, registering voters, and we did it through all of my my organization, certainly the Essex County chapter of the Lynx, certainly the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, the chapter I'm in, the Bergen-Passaic chapter, all of my organizations, and I know that all of your organizations, the Garden State Bar Association, the North Jersey Shore University Alumni Chapter, and the League of Women Voters, because my active chapter is the Montclair area chapter, and we've been on the front lines with the League of Women Voters, registering voters and getting them out to vote. So you can imagine our dismay when we heard from people that they didn't think that their vote counted. They felt that, after all, they saw that Hillary Clinton, and let me start by making sure that everybody understands that the Association of Black Women Lawyers of New Jersey is a nonpartisan organization. But guess what? The facts are the facts. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016 and lost the election because she didn't have enough votes coming out of the Electoral College. And we have a slide that demonstrates the importance and the significance. So if you would go to the first slide that shows what happened in 2016, just look at these numbers and your heart will sink. In Florida, and you know, Florida is a battleground state. Every candidate is there. Their vice presidential candidates are in Florida trying to get people out to vote and to make sure that despite real disgraceful efforts at voter suppression, that every single vote will count. In 2016, Donald Trump won Florida by a mere, and I say mere because this 113,000 votes is peanuts compared to the size of Florida and the number of votes that could have been cast. He won it by 113,000 votes, and yet 379,000 Black registered voters in Miami alone were AWOL and decided that they weren't going to vote. Look at Pennsylvania, and you know, Pennsylvania is a battleground state. Every single candidate is out there canvassing in Pennsylvania to make sure that every vote comes out. Trump only won Pennsylvania by 44,000 votes, and yet 238,000 Black registered voters stayed home. Now, I know, and you know, that not every single Black person that didn't vote in Pennsylvania would have voted for Hillary Clinton. But if just a fraction of them had come out and voted, they too could have changed the course of history. And Wisconsin, which is on everybody's mind and on everybody's radar screen, the number there is so small. He only won by 23,000 votes, but 93,000 Black registered voters just didn't show up at the polls. And it really is so important for people to understand that every single vote does count. And I did a presentation for a group of young people. They are the senior teens of a Jack and Jill chapter, and they were really testing me. And they said, you know, well, one vote can't possibly count. And I gave them a litany of elections that have been won in this country and around the world by just one vote. And the one that resonated with them the most was when they found out that in Germany, Adolf Hitler only won by one vote and changed the course of world history thereafter. So I had their attention and they signed up, they registered to vote, and they wanted to know more about the Electoral College. So if you can show the next slide. You'll see that the Electoral College is something that I hope that ABWL and the League of Women Voters and every other organization that really, really believes in justice and democracy will turn their attention to and help us get rid of it. There are 538 electors, and that's based on the number of House representatives you have and the 100 senators from the 50 states. And Washington, D.C., which is fighting for statehood now, only has 3 electors. And there are 6 states that have the most electors. California has 55, Texas 38, New York has their number, Pennsylvania, New Jersey only has 14 Electoral College votes. Florida has 29, Illinois has 20. So these votes are the ones that are counted. We're voting now for our electors to go out and cast their votes for the President of the United States. So we need to make sure that in each of those states, every vote gets counted, because those electors who represent those people who live in those states will be the ones who will actually cast their ballot. So it's really no longer one man, one woman, one vote. We've got this antiquated, race-based system that was racist in its origins that is still in effect, and we don't need that anymore. So that's the issue, and that's why we've got to make sure that every single vote gets counted. Now, we emphasize, and we're spending a lot of time talking about the presidential election, but we're voting not just for ourselves. If you could show the next slide, that would be appreciated. We need to make sure that people are registered. Now, this election, it's too late to register online to vote. The deadline for voter registration for this election has passed. But guess what? New Jersey is one of the only states in the nation that has an election every single year. Every year, there is someone running for something that affects our lives, be it a school board election, a municipal election, a county election, a sheriff's election. Next year, we've got the gubernatorial election. We've got a lot of county elections that are, especially the 5 counties that have county executives. So it's important that we continue to register no matter what the outcome of this election. Get people registered, because it really does make a difference in our lives. And the proof is in the pudding, because we're doing it not just for ourselves. And we talk about this being the most important election in our lives. We say it over and over again. And it's true every time, but more true now than ever. We're doing it for our young people. Look at these young people and what they've said to us. If you go to the next slide, that'd be great. These young people are saying, we can't vote, but what's your excuse? And we're voting for them because education policy, opportunities for them, everything that will affect their lives, police protection for them, police accountability for them is on the ballot. And we have the power in our hands to make sure that we leave this place a little bit better for them, and that they can participate fully in what we call and proudly call our participatory democracy. And we know that participation has been squashed in so many areas. And I know that we have, ABWL has put together a short video of young people telling us why they vote. So if you could run that video, Nilaja, that would be great. I'm not sure what's happening with the video, Nilaja. I see the image, but I'm not hearing anything and I'm not seeing anything. So perhaps there's some technical difficulties, and we'll get back to the video a little bit later on. But let's talk about what's happening here in New Jersey now. Everyone by now should have received their ballot package. And if you know of anyone who has not yet received their ballot, urge them immediately to contact their county clerk, because they can go into the county clerk's office and they can get their ballot right there with ID. They must have identification, and they will be able to cast their ballot on the spot. Everyone should have received their ballot. So you already heard that we know that in Bergen County, there were people that didn't receive their ballots. So if they've not yet received their ballots, please urge them to go to the county clerk's office and pick their ballot up. And in their ballot package, and this is why, I emphasize that every vote counts, because not only do we have presidential candidates on our ballot, We've got congressional candidates. We've got some county candidates. We've got municipal elections. We've got town council elections, mayoral elections, as well as 3 important public questions. So the first thing that people need to be trained and educated to do is to review their ballot and follow some very simple rules. First of all, every ballot in each county has the every county had the opportunity to create their ballot package, and they weren't uniform, and that was kind of disgraceful because some had big red screen. They were big and red, and you could see automatically that it was your election ballot. Some were just kind of simple, but there are instructions in each packet that you must read and tell the people that you support and the communities that you serve to read the ballot very carefully, and I'll tell you why. In Essex County, that's the county I live in, we have a really terrific county clerk who met with the local groups and asked us to give him guidance on what the ballot needed to look like and what it needed to say. So in Essex County, the instructions in Essex County are to complete your ballot, to circle in blue ink, black ink, or pencil. That is not true in every single county. We're able to do it in Essex County because Essex County budgeted and bought those high-speed reading machines and tabulators. Not every county in the state was able to do that. So they didn't have the budget in place. So there are machines that can only read black ink. So it is imperative that you share with the people in the communities that you serve to read the instructions, because if they complete the oval by the name in blue ink, guess what? Their ballot's not going to be counted because the machine can't read it. So the devil is really in the details. The other thing that people need to be very careful of, and we need to instruct people because we found this happened during the municipal elections in May and in the primary elections. We have a culture of voting in our community. So people love to go to the polls. They love to go to the booth. They press the button and a great big X comes up. So many people completed their ballots by putting an X in the ballot as opposed to circling in the oval. And as a result, those ballots were not counted because the machines could not read an X. We had some people who were very active and proud of the organizations to which they belong, and they decided that they were going to complete their ballots in the colors of their organization. So we found people completed their ballots in red, they completed them in green, they used pink pencil, they used brown pencil, and brown colored pencils. And of course, the machines couldn't read that. So urge people to be very, very intentional about reading the instructions and following the instructions in their individual ballot package to a T. The other thing people did was when the instructions said, vote for 2 or vote for 3, they voted for their 2 or 3 candidates, but just in case somebody didn't make it, they voted for 4th choice or 3rd choice. And what that does is invalidate every single candidate that you voted for that particular office. So we urge people, please, please, please do not overvote. Now you can undervote. If they tell you to vote for 3 and you only want to vote for 2, only vote for 2. But the moment you vote for more people than you are eligible to vote for or you're allowed to vote for, you invalidate that entire office, that entire line of candidates. So we want to make sure that we are clear when we talk to people about the kinds of things and the kinds of things that constitute mistakes. Once they've completed it in the proper color ink or pencil, depending on their instructions, and they voted and not overvoted, they put their ballots in the, what we call the certificate envelope, because there were 3 envelopes. There's the big envelope that the whole package came in. There's the certificate envelope that you submit and put your ballot in, and then you seal it and you sign it. Here was another error that a lot of people made, and we're hoping they don't make it in this election. They tore the certificate off, despite the fact that it said very clearly in every single certificate envelope, do not detach. But because it was perforated, and the natural inclination, if you see something perforated, is to tear it off. And we cautioned the clerks. We told them that that was a bad idea to perforate the certificate, but it made it easier for them because we are, for the first time, it's a vote by mail election. It makes it easier for the County Board of Elections people who get the ballots to just tear it off and start scanning and reading, and it makes them more efficient. But what it did was it confused so many people. So we asked you to tell people, do not detach their certificate, because if you detach the certificate, that made your ballot invalid. But there's some cures. I'm going to share those with you as we get to the end. But it's better that people leave the certificate intact, sign it. Signatures became a major issue because the way you signed when you registered to vote, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or even a year ago, may be different than the way you sign now. So there are matching efforts to make sure that the signature on the mail-in ballot is identical to the signature that's in the book. And we didn't have those problems when we went to the polls, when we were able to go to the polls to vote, because you got the book, you looked at the book, you signed, you saw your previous signature, and you could easily match it. So we want to make sure that people sign sign the certificate. And now, despite the fact that there may be some changes in your signature, you're able to cure that as well. So those errors that were made in the primary and in the municipal elections, we made every effort, and we really, really reach out and thank the Institute for Social Justice, the ACLU, and the League of Women Voters for bringing the lawsuit and bringing the litigation to make sure that we would have the opportunity to cure. Once you completed the ballot properly, signed the certificate, and your signature is on the certificate, we found that there were a number of people who are unwilling to go to the mailbox or unwilling to go to the Board of Elections to turn their ballot in. So they got people who were, and a lot of them were young people, and we were excited to see so many young people engaged. And we had one instance in a senior citizen development where a young man, a high school student, who was eligible to vote himself, decided that he was going to collect his grandmother's ballot. And while he was there, he said, well, why don't I just collect everybody's ballot? Because this is a senior building, and they were so grateful for his help. So he went and he took their ballots to the Board of Election, and he had about 11 ballots. Of course, the rule is, as a bearer, someone who's taking somebody else's ballot to the polls, you can only take 3. So it was a mad dash and a scramble to make sure that those 8 other people whose ballots he had were able to vote. So please let these do-gooders, and they mean well, and we're excited about their energy and their willingness to be participants in a participatory democracy. Let them know that they can only deliver and bear 3 ballots for people other than themselves. And we're so close. We're 5 days away from changing the course of history. We don't have the luxury of time to go back and correct any good-intended, well-intended error. So once the ballots are in to the, you can mail them in a couple of ways. A lot of people have a major distrust now of the United States Postal Service. And they've been maligned. As you know, you've heard all about the belief that somehow they're just unable and inept. And yet, when you talk to people who work in your local post offices, they take great pride in their work. They are very, very hurt by the aspersions that have been cast on their profession. And we know as Black people that a postal job, working in the post office, was a hard-fought victory for Black people around this nation. It fed families, it allowed people to educate their children, and we know people who took pride in being a postal worker. So we encouraged people early on that if you didn't trust the mailbox, go to the post office itself, hand it to a postal worker, and those people who work in those jobs are proud to be able to say that your mail would get delivered. There were some bad actors. I think most of you saw the story that affected us horribly in West Orange, where a postal worker in uniform decided he was just going to toss bag after bag of mail into a dumpster in Mount Arlington, New Jersey. It was by the grace of God that someone was sitting at a light, had stopped at a red light, and saw him actually do this in uniform. The woman called the police came, and they found tons of mail in that dumpster. And it wasn't just people's ballots that were thrown out, and it was most of the ballots came from West Orange, the city of West Orange, and the city of Orange. But people's prescription medicine was tossed out. People's paychecks, for those people who don't have direct deposit, paychecks were tossed out. Important mail was tossed out. So one bad actor kind of tarnished the reputation of so many dedicated, hardworking, committed postal workers. So I tip my hat to those postal workers who were still doing the job, fighting against the negative information that was being put out about them, and were making sure that the mail got delivered. They took that oath about neither snow nor mail nor gloom of night or fog would stop them in their duties. And they really, really made an extra effort. And we saw it. I saw it in the post offices in West Orange, that they were making the commitment that that mail would get delivered. But here we are now, 5 days away. So even under the best of circumstances, because as long as your ballot, if you mailed it using the United States Postal Service, was postmarked by November 3rd and received by November 10th, your vote should count. But we're so close to the election that we're now urging people, if you haven't voted yet, there are other mechanisms that you can use. And if you can show that slide that shows the other ways that you can deliver your mail, that's, yes, move forward. If you go forward, yes, you can deliver it by the ballot drop boxes. And you heard the news about the disappointment that there are only 2 ballot drop boxes in the city of Newark. But you have to count your blessings as they come, because in the primary election, there was only 1. And I'll use Essex County as an example. Essex County only had 5 ballot drop boxes for the primary. We've got 25 now. There's 1 in every single municipality. And that is true for the state of New Jersey. So even though we would love to have had more ballot drop boxes, and they really are secure, they're bolted to concrete. There's a camera on them 24 hours. So there's 24-hour surveillance. And depending on your municipality and your county, the Board of Elections staff, along with the sheriff's officers, go out and they collect at least once a day. And in many places, they collect the ballots twice a day. So we know that that's a secure way to deliver your ballot. You also have the option to deliver your ballot in person. You can go straight to the County Board of Elections in your county, and you can deliver your ballot there. You can deliver your ballot plus 3 others if you've got people that you know are not going to be able to get to the polls on election day. You can deliver their ballots as well. And despite the fact that this is a vote by mail election, you still have the opportunity, if none of those other ways to deliver your ballot are satisfactory to you, you can go to your designated polling place. And you should have gotten, or you will be getting, a postcard telling you where your designated polling place is. And that's important because in a vote by mail election, this election, the polling places are limited in each municipality. Each county has to produce or have at least 50% of the polling places they would have had if this were an in-person election that had not been thwarted by the coronavirus. So it's important that people go to their polling place if they really do not believe in voting in any other ways I've just described. But here's a caveat. Go to your designated polling place. And at that polling place, you can only deliver your ballot. You're not able to deliver the ballot for anybody else. And if you're doing it on election night by 8 p.m. and you've got other people's ballots in your hand, guess what? You have disenfranchised them. So go to the designated polling place and you can deliver your ballot. Now, why do we have designated polling places? Well, there's some people who are differently abled. And because they're differently abled, they will be able to go to their polling place, the designated polling place, and I'm emphasizing the word designated. They will be able to go to their designated polling place and tell them, let them know they shouldn't be shocked if they don't see a voting booth there, because there are no voting booths. There is a device, a handheld device, and there will be people who will assist them and help them cast their vote for the candidates that they want to elect. But in the primary, we saw people and people who were differently able. They got there and they were stunned that they didn't have a voting booth that they could go in and vote on. So that is the case. It was the case then, it's the case now. So please give them a heads up so that they aren't upset and they aren't concerned that somehow, some way, they have been disenfranchised. So they can go to the polling place, their designated polling place, and cast their ballot there. For someone who has not received a ballot and they haven't gone to the clerk's office to get one, they can still go to a designated polling place and cast their ballot via a provisional ballot. They will fill it out there. It's a provisional ballot. They will have an opportunity to have their vote cast, and their vote, we've been assured, all the provisional ballots will also be counted. Unlike in previous years, all of the provisional ballots, and this was given to us by our county clerk here in Essex, all of the provisional ballots will be counted. And encourage people when they look at their ballot to turn it over, because that's where their municipal elections are. And let's not in any way diminish the importance of municipal elections. It was clear from all of the Black Lives Matter movements that the police accountability is held in the hands of the people who appoint them. That's your mayors, your town councils. Those are the people who will help you and us and me determine how our police are held accountable. And, you know, the people use the phrase defund the police. It's about police accountability. And if you've got mayors who are unwilling to act, if you've got council people who are unwilling to act, then guess what? There is no accountability. So it's imperative that you vote for the municipal elections and that you vote for your school board elections, because the education of our children is profound, it's personal, it's important, and who you elect to serve on your school board in those towns that have elected school boards will determine the course of history as well. So once the votes are cast and you've done it, everybody's done it the right way, and we've educated our public on how to vote by mail, how to get the votes cast, making sure that they filled out and completed the ballots properly so that every single vote will be counted. We know that there may be some mishaps and some misunderstandings. So we know that now, if there is a question about a signature, rather than just toss the ballot aside, your Board of Elections and the people that are counting have got to, under a direct order, they must contact the voter within 24 hours and let the voter know that there is some question about their signature or some question about their ballot, and that voter will have an opportunity to cure. And I've seen it with 2 people already. They got the notice, they went, because the ballots are already being opened and they're actually being counted, but there is no report yet. And it's illegal, and fines will be imposed if anybody that's working for the Board of Elections reveals the tally so far. But people went in, they saw their ballot, they had ID, you've got to have your identification, and they attested to the fact that that was indeed their signature, and they were very pleased to know. And they give a lot of thanks to, like I said, the Institute for Social Justice, the League of Women Voters, and the ACLU for fighting to make sure that they would have that opportunity to cure. So the opportunity is there. We must make sure that our people go out and vote. And I know that that video that we wanted to show of our young people telling us why they vote is ready. So if you put that up, I think that would be a good way for me to end and just take questions as they come. And while we're waiting for Nilaja to put that, that video up, I do urge you, if you want to track your ballot and you want to know, make sure that your ballot's been received and you want to know what's going on, I urge you to go on the website that our Secretary of State, Tahisha Way, created. Go to votenj.gov. There's a wealth of information. You can register to vote there. You can track your ballot. And we're going to see this video, and I'll finish up with a big...
I vote because it's an honor to those who came before me and fought for me to have this right. And it's an honor to myself and my voice. I believe that what I want matters, what I need matters, and who I pick matters. That's why I vote.
My name is Jade Hunter, and I'm excited to vote because voting matters. And as an African-American woman, I want my voice to be heard.
I vote because I view voting as a way to get my voice heard, to be able to elect people who want to push the issues that are important to me forward, who care about the things that I care about.
I vote because it is never too early to start a lifelong habit of making sure that my voice is heard. As a December 2020 food science graduate, my choice is clear. But whoever you vote for, just vote. You should have received your official mail-in ballot, completed in its entirety in blue or black ink. Sign it, seal it, and then mail it, take it to a secure drop box, or take it to your county board of elections. Visit nj.com for step-by-step instructions to make sure that your vote counts.
Vote for the change that you want. Vote for the change that you need. But either way, just vote.
Just vote. And I urge you to go to, and I think we have a slide that shows the votenj.gov information. Do you have that, Nilaja? If you go to vote.nj.gov, you will be able to track your ballot. You'll find out. You'll be able to get information about where your local drop boxes are in your particular county. You will be able to get information about your ballot. You'll be able to do a host of things if you go to vote.nj.gov. And we really do have to give a big shout out. And here it is, the New Jersey Voter Information Portal that was created by our Secretary of State, Tahisha Way, to make sure, for the first time, to make sure that every single resident of New Jersey is able to register to vote, able to track their ballots, able to find out information about their ballots, able to find out where their Board of Elections are and where their clerks are, and where the ballot boxes are, and where their designated polling places are. So I really think that we've got to give a big shout out to her, because this was something that she thought was important to do after meeting with so many community groups around the state. And when we spoke, she listened. So kudos to her. At this point, I'm happy to take any questions that anyone had. I see there were some questions in the chat box, so let's have at it. One of the questions that I saw up on my screen while you're monitoring them, Nilaja, and sharing them with us, was how do you find out about whether or not your ballot's been received? Vote.nj.gov. And in some counties, postcards were sent. I got my postcard telling me that my ballot had been received. It didn't say it had been counted yet, but it indicated that it had been received and accepted. So that gave me a great deal of comfort. What other questions do we have?
Yes, Joyce. There was a question about 411, and how to enter your address. Can you give some information about that?
What do you mean about how to enter your address? I don't quite understand the question.
So if you wanted to visit for more information, there was a vote 411 to enter an address. Do you have information about that?
Yeah, no, I'm urging, because this is New Jersey, vote.nj.gov, because some of those voter information sites are national, and I found that they had some really bad information that was unfortunate when people went outside of our state. For example, in other states, the deadline for voter registration was different than ours. So that was why, when we met with Secretary of State Way, she decided to create one that is unique to New Jersey. So if you want more information about your ballot and you're in New Jersey, you're a New Jersey voter, go to vote.nj.gov. That is unique to and specific to our state, because like I said, the national ones had information that was, unfortunately, it was great that they did it, but it wasn't segmented by state, and some people missed the voter registration deadline because they went to other sites and had information.
Another question that we received was, if I signed up and I used another color ink, will I be allowed to correct my ballot?
If you completed your ballot in another color ink, that other color ink would have been okay if on your instruction sheet it said you could use blue, black ink, or pencil. I would hope that if you read your instructions and you used blue ink, it would have been because it said you could. If you're in the situation where you have completed your ballot and it's already been sent in, I would urge you to reach out to your county board of elections, because it's very difficult to cure if they've already tabulated and thrown your and couldn't read your ballot. So immediately contact your county board of elections and let them know, and let your clerk know too, that you believe and that you have completed your ballot using an ink that was not, that cannot be read by their machine. But I fear that it may be too late.
Thank you, Dr. Harley. The other question that we do have is about the questions that are on the back. Do you have any input about answering those questions?
Yes, there are three public questions. And as I said, this election was interesting because just about every level of government was represented. You had your federal level with your presidential and your congressional and your Senate. You had your counties. Many county elections going on for well, they're called freeholders on your ballot, but their new name is county commissioners. The word freeholder is going away because of its racist origins. It's going away, but it was decided after the ballots had already been printed. So you've got those. You've got your state represented by the state public questions. And there are three questions that are on the ballot. One is a constitutional amendment to legalize marijuana. And there are pros and cons, and I urge you to vote your conscience. There were the property tax deductions and exemptions for peacetime veterans who did not serve in conflict. And there's a strong sentiment that they should have property tax deductions. And there was a third question about the constitutional amendment to change the legislative redistricting schedule if the census data is delayed. And of course, we know that we suspect that the census data will be delayed. And it has consequences for us in New Jersey and of course the state, because the census data is how we determine how many congressional districts we have and what our congressional representation is. And as you know, I hope you know that from the 2010 census, we lost a congressional district here in New Jersey because people Just like some people don't think their votes are important. People didn't think completing the census was important, or they had legitimate concerns about how that census data would be used. And in spite of the fact that we told people there's never, ever, to our knowledge, been a case where census data was used to deport, incarcerate, or in any way punish anyone, their response was, yeah, but you've never had a president like this one before, or an administration like this one before, and you just had to say touche, because they have what they believe are legitimate concerns. So you will have to read it and vote your conscience on whether or not you think that the redistricting schedules should be changed. There's some people who feel very strongly that it should not be changed, and there's some people who feel very strongly that it should. It depends on, as they say, whose ox is gored, who's going to lose a district or who's not. So those are the three questions, and the advice is to read the explanations, discuss it with people, and vote your conscience. I can't tell you how to vote on those questions, and I won't tell you how I voted on them, but I urge you to read them and read the explanations very, very carefully so that you know the consequences of each.
Thank you so much. And I think our final question was, what happens if a person mistakenly marks the wrong circle? For instance, mark 2 places for senator. Will the entire ballot be discarded, or will a vote for senator be ignored?
No, the entire ballot will not be discarded. If you inadvertently overvoted, only that vote for that office will be ignored. The rest of your ballot, if you've followed it and completed it thoroughly and correctly, will count. I see a lot of thank yous, and it's been my pleasure. It's an honor to be a member of the Association of Black Women Lawyers of New Jersey and to be a past president of this organization. And it's my pleasure and I'm committed to it, to make sure that every single vote and every single voter is recognized and that every single vote counts. And it's just, like I said to someone, I said, I tried to keep quiet, but my ancestors wouldn't let me. Too many of the people on whose shoulders I stand fought and died for the right to vote. So there's no way I could keep quiet about it. And I know that you all have taken the same just stand, and all of you feel exactly as I do. And that's why we do the work we do in our communities. Every single organization that is our sponsor tonight is out there, and I call you all my drum majors for justice, because justice will be served if we take on the mantle of leadership and make sure that it does get served.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harley, and thank you so much for everyone who is joining us tonight. If you have any lingering questions, you can email abwlvotes@gmail.com. I will put it in the chat. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Harley. Do you have any final remarks before we close out?
That the only remark is voting is not a spectator sport. Get involved, get in good trouble, as John Lewis said. And remember, after November 3rd, there is still a lot of work to be done. We need to turn our attention to the Electoral College. We need to turn our attention to the efforts at voter suppression, and we need to join with the Institute for Social Justice, the ACLU, the League of Women Voters, to make sure that democracy is served. So it's never over. Just vote.
And thank you for that. And again, thank you for all. Again, vote, vote, vote. And you know what? Actually, I have a question, Dr. Harley.
Sure.
So on election day, what should people expect? Because I feel like some people don't understand the way mail-in ballots work, and some people will be dropping off the day of the election. What should we expect on election night?
Well, on election night, which is November 3rd, and it's really not election night because the election's been going on. Once they started, the ballots started coming in, and so we don't really have an election day, but November 3rd, which would have been our traditional election day, there will be people at the polls because I know many people who don't trust the other means of returning their ballot are going to their designated polling place, and they're going to hand in their ballots. So we can expect to see people there. I don't expect the long lines that we're seeing around the country because thousands upon thousands of votes have already been cast in New Jersey. The votes will be at 8 p.m. Everything shuts down and the votes will continue to be counted. I believe that there is some concern about disruption and I'll call it bad behavior at the polls. And that's why the election protection team is out there to make sure that nobody is intimidated. I don't think we'll see it in New Jersey the way we're seeing it around the country. And then we'll just wait to see who has won. Because they're counting now, I understand from my clerk that we will know in New Jersey what the outcome is on election night. There is the anticipation that that will occur. We won't know nationally because of the intimidation, suppression, and all the other things that are happening around the nation. So we sit and cross our fingers and hope that, well, this is my opinion, not ABWL. I'm hoping for regime change. So thank you.
And thank you so much. If there are any other lingering questions, please contact abwlvotes@gmail.com. And with that, vote, tell a friend to tell a friend, and have a great evening. We're gonna push forward and pray for the best for November 3rd.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Harley.
Good night.
Good night.